truth. But they don't want the truth. They don't want her truth or his truth or your truth. No, they want their truth. That's the truth they want. And that's the truth they demand and they're never going to get. So I started to think, what could we do? What could we do to make it a little better? And it occurred to me, look, if the first person, it's said to be axiomatic, if the first person who speaks the truth loses an election, stay with me, boys and girls, if the first person to speak the truth loses the election, and you lose an election by getting the fewest votes, it occurred to me that perhaps if we inverted the process and made it so that the person who got the fewest votes lost, then people would consequently speak the truth, because by speaking the truth, they would get the fewest votes and win the election. I thought it was a pretty good idea, you know. I thought it was a very good idea, which had a lot of promise. And you know what? I called up Brad and I said, I got a brilliant idea. He said, what's your brilliant idea? And I said, look, it's a system like this. Nobody in America can dare speak the truth, because if you speak the truth, you lose the election. So let's turn it around that you'll get the fewest votes, and then you'll speak the truth to get the fewest votes and win the election. I mean, can you imagine what it would be like? People would be making speeches and they would say, I cheated my way through college and I'm going to do the same thing in government. I hate football. I can't stand kissing babies. I love sushi, and I'll tell you something, I think stock car racing is a form of mental illness. You know, I think this would really do something to get the American political process functioning on a truthful level. You know, my father said to me, he said, nobody votes anymore anyway, who cares? That's the kind of life I've got to, that's the kind of relationship I have to put up with my own father. It's not fair, but he's my dad. You know, I was brought up on traditional television. Traditional television, that's an interesting thing, you know. I was walking through the streets of this little town with my good friend Dave, who unfortunately is not with us today, not here with us today, and we ran into a woman who was complaining about the difficulties that her son was having with the Spanish language. And I said, you know, I'm no stranger to the tongue of Cervantes, having spent extensive time in Latin America working for Ollie North out of the basement office at the White House. It's a long story. And I said, you know, I could help the boy out, perhaps. And she said, would you? And I said, you know, it's a possibility. Well, I got involved with the kid, and it was pretty tough because the kid wasn't interested in studying. And I realized as I was working along that these kids are trapped in an unbreakable chain of electronic addiction. An unbreakable chain of electronic addiction. What are they going to do? But reading further, I discovered something that was completely unthought of before, and that was the role of television. You probably remember in the old days, everybody said that television was killing the United States. The liberals were everywhere going, ban television, ban television. Television promotes violence and other negative things. It turns out not so. In fact, according to a survey done at MIT, and that's still a pretty good school, it's not Pepperdine by any stretch of the imagination, and of course many liberals teach there, but they still do a fair job. It was determined that traditional television was far more beneficial than anything that could be cranked out on the internet. And that's what I'm doing now, is I'm spending a lot of time down in Washington lobbying to return traditional television to the United States. Shows like Gunsmoke and Bonanza that will impart values and good manners in our youth. And I'm saying this sincerely from my heart. And you know why, boys and girls? Because if we lose the children, we have no future. This is the greatest country in the world. Do you know that? It's the greatest country in the world. And I want to say something. We all know from listening to the inspirational messages of Reverend Bean on the 8th day, God made America. On the 7th day he rested. It's spoken of in the Bible. But on Monday morning, God was back at work making America. First he made the mountains. Then he made the prairies. Next step, the oceans. They were white with foam. And then he really got down to it. He started to make the shopping malls and the highways and the railways, the ballparks. And it was perfect. And he called it so. This is America. I want to tell you all about it, but we have a lot of problems right now. The biggest problem we have is that the economy has gone nowhere with this administration. I'm going to tell you something. If Romney wins, it'll be just as bad. This is a bad down cycle, and there's just no way out. Do you realize while I'm speaking, boys and girls, that 47,000 families are going to lose their homes to foreclosure? Every hour, 47,000 families lose their homes to foreclosure. It's a terrible thing. It's an absolutely terrible thing, and that's why I want to get out of it. And the way I think I'm going to get out of it is I'm going back to Scotland. You know, Bubbles McAdoo has done a lot of great things for me, and one of the things she did, and a great show of her gratitude, was to buy me this title. It's a Scottish title, and I'm the Laird of Dundeel. Why did she do this? Well, Bubbles was very grateful when Karl Rove and I fixed the election and got her elected the Mother of the Year. And to pay me back, she went looking for something special. She was thinking of buying me an NFL franchise to run, a baseball team or something, and then a good friend of ours, Major Mike Longley, who is the cricket editor for the Telegraph, he's a great British conservative thinker and writer, said, you know what, Bubs? If Pep were born in Britain, had he have been born in Britain, undoubtedly Her Majesty would have summoned him to Windsor, said, on your knees, tapped him on the shoulders with a ceremonial sword and said, rise, Sir Preston. He deserves a title. Well, you know, they looked around for a while, and there were slim pickings that season. The only thing they could find for me initially was King of Bulgaria, and I wasn't too excited about being the King of Bulgaria. And then one night, Major Mike calls up, and he says to me, I got it. There is a title available in Scotland, the Laird of Dundeel. It comes with extensive land holdings, a castle, and a distillery. Well, we flew out there, and we had to go to a clan meeting. I'd been to many clan meetings in the United States, but none of them were like this one. First of all, the color scheme's completely different. You just can't